guys, what's going on? Welcome back. My name is Art Supplies, and I know it's a tough time for everyone at the moment. We're all locked inside, but what better time to work on your music? So I have put together a little bit of a introduction and walkthrough of the new KSHMR plugin, his own branded plugin that he's called KSHMR Essentials. It's available on Splice for rent to own, about I think $5 US a month, and then that's 20-month installments, ending up being about $100 US. Hopefully we'll talk about how relevant I think that is in terms of cost price, value for money, whether young producers need this kind of thing, that kind of thing. So a little bit about the plugin. It's a one knob sort of business whereby the parameter of the plugin, you don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes. I have no idea whether or not KSHMR himself was involved in development. Some artists just don't do very much. Some do lots and are involved in the process of making these things. I know he was involved in the process of making the sounds that he puts out on Splice, so possibly quite involved in the creative process behind this, but maybe not technically manufacturing the plugin. Anyway, it's there. Let's jump into it and show you what it can do, and basically I'm going to tell you whether or not I think you should get it. So jump in. Here it is, the plugin. It looks like this, fairly sort of simple and easy layout. There's a few things to note. First, up the top here, you've got different sections. So we're going to pick whether or not it's bass, drums, kick, synth, or vocals. And as you can see, each time it changes. There's 8 knobs down here that it changes the parameters for when I click through them. So there's things like, for example, if we start with the bass, there's things like harmony, X, fuzz, pressure, excite, sub, sidecut. These are all different parameters that are going to change things within the sound. Now, what I do really like about this is that it is a very subtle plugin. A lot of the plugins that you do, you sort of pump up maybe 100% of the plugin and it's just completely too much. This one you can really put up towards the higher percentages and it's still only being sort of there but not there. So it's nice, and I've had a bit of a play around with it on different things, and I'll show you what it can do and essentially how it changes each sound. So I'll find a bass. Let's just go into bass. I'm just going to find some sort of bass loop. I wonder if anybody's got bass loop. Let's use one of KSHMR's bass loops himself, right? Okay, loop's over. Perfect. So let's play around with the plugin on this loop. So we're going to push up this harmony X. As far as I can work out, this is sort of like pushing. If you haven't seen my video on Maxxbass, check it out right now. I'll chuck a little highlight up on the top of the screen. But check out that. It does the same thing. Essentially, it's pushing some of the upper frequencies or forcing them out. I'd love to know what's going on behind these parameters. It doesn't actually tell you anywhere, or I mean, KSHMR did a little video on it, which I'll link in the description, but it doesn't really tell you what's going on. So this is essentially bringing out harmonics in the sound. So let's have a listen. So you can hear it's pushing up maybe a little bit of the higher distortion end or forcing that bit up. Could be an EQ curve, could be a bit of saturation, could be a bit of both. We don't know. So fuzz, top end, let's have a look. I like that one because it adds a little bit more fuzz to the top end and brings out some of the energy in it. Pressure, not sure what that is. Feel like it could be some sort of limiting, squashing, multi-band, something going on. Exciting. Bringing those high cuts back in, bringing the high transients back in we're looking at the sub in this next one. You can also bring in the root note of whatever this is, which it says is in F sharp minor. So if we brought this down to, whoops, brought this up to F sharp, it's gonna push that frequency, apparently, or so I've worked out. So if it'll push that frequency in the sub a little bit higher with an EQ curve, so you can kind of hear that a little bit more pronounced in the mix. I don't know how much you can hear in this video, but there it is. Side cut, this is kind of, again, cutting the sides for the bass up to a certain amount and making the lows mono, as far as I can work out. So you can sort of push it up to where you want the cut off to be. Same with width. I think that's just adding width in the top end, not necessarily the bass end, especially with what you've cut over here on the side cut. The width could just be adding a little bit of top width up there. So we'll see what those do. And then compression, you know, compressing the sound. It's already a compressed sample, so I'm going to leave that one, but you can compress a little bit further if you wish. So let's play the loop, and I'm going to turn the mix all the way down and all the way up, and or maybe even just switch the plugin on and off and see the difference between before and after. So this is the sound before. Now we'll play it with. Now, some might say that's overprocessed, including myself, but look, it's just kind of another way of exciting the sound and playing around with the parameters on easy kind of twistable knobs. And in my opinion, I really think it's good to kind of do that sort of thing and excite up some of the sounds that you've got in there, but without going into like what's going on behind the scenes and without knowing what's actually happening. There's no learning going on here. You're sort of just playing with stuff, and you can very easily overprocess by just throwing in, as you can see, just pump it up. It's like, oh, I don't know if I can really hear this, you know, whack that up. And if that's a sharp EQ boost behind the scenes, that you may not want that in your mix. So yeah, it's good if you kind of understand what these things are doing, but if you don't understand kind of and can't hear any difference, it's probably not something that you're going to be jumping on board with. Like, it's certainly not going to make your production sound like KSHMR, that's for sure. It's just adding a little bit of sound goodizing to the sound. And like, the thing that I like it with, I'll show you this example, is sort of like drums or kick. And let's say with the kick, you can put transients and air in it and a little bit of tape compression, which is some tape saturation, sorry, which is really nice touch, which is a really nice touch. Man, my English is bad today. Let's find a kick and then do the same thing, and I'll show you what you can do to bring out. Let's use cymatics because it's just fun. Yeah, cool. So that's a good example. It's a really dead kick. We'll listen to it. Man, if anybody knows how to get rid of that fade on there, that automatic fade, let me know. So not much transient on it. Let's see if we can make this sound amazing. We also need to reset the parameters. I don't know how to do this. This is a really like sort of, I haven't worked out the plugin enough to know what to do yet. So here we go. Kick, same thing. Sub, you can change the note. I don't know what the note is for this kick, so we'll save time by skipping over that one. But essentially, it does the same thing in the bass, pushes up the note value in the frequencies. Mid provides a bit more knock. Let's try that. Let's just loop this over. That's nice. Air. again, just more highs. Transients, this is the one that I like. Now that's got a definite top and a knock on it. I mean, it's still not amazingly huge, but compared to what it was, way better. Tape saturation, listen to what this does. Subtle tape, especially on things like hip-hop, low-grade house, low grade. It's probably what I make, low-grade house. Lo-fi house. Pressure, this is just such a difficult one. I don't know what pressure is. Hopefully, I think it's multi-band, essentially, but just different settings. So play with that, but I'm just scared to. Compression and width. Width is weird for a kick, but let's listen. Doesn't seem to change the sound much, and I'll tell you, skip over the fact that we'll play around with what that does, but I've worked out that it's essentially just taking the highs, the top clicks, and then splitting them. So it doesn't change the essential like knock of the kick, which is good because that's what you want. Down the bottom, after all these things you've got up top, down the bottom we've got our last little set of parameters. Auto gain, which is really nice to A and B something to see what's actually going on rather than just being a volume jump. The mix, 100%. Obviously, every plugin needs a dial ability to bring it back. Clipping, you can change how it clips. Some of this information here, so I'm leasing it at the moment. Try again, check your splice lease. Oh, I need to sort this out. But yeah, my splice lease is active. Decibels in and out. You can also solo left, right, mid, and side, which is really helpful for monitoring purposes as well. Now, that all being said, you've seen a little bit of what it does. I personally am probably not going to keep investing in it. I'm renting to own. I haven't paid yet. I've just done the first few days trial. Probably going to pull out of it because I mean, I have other plugins that do similar things to this already, so there's not much point, especially in a sort of time when we need our money and want to spend it wisely. I don't want to be spending $100 on a plugin that's not necessarily going to do that many new things. I've got some cool stuff already that's able to make similar changes, and I know what's going on in there, and I'm doing it purposefully. I find that if you're a young producer, if you're just starting out, if you just whack this on and just start twisting knobs, you're going to end up with a sort of screwed up sound and you don't know why. I mean, don't get me wrong. You could have come up with something that sounds really nice and you could be able to use this subtly and effectively. So go for it if that's what you want to do. But it's certainly not, just because it's KSHMR plugin doesn't mean that it's any better than anything that's out there. It's just a kind of user-friendly secret sauce spice up type thing for really getting some control in some of the sounds. But like I said, I'm probably not going to have it myself. Young producers, if you're just starting out, I encourage you to just learn the basics of what actually is going on here, or what saturation, compression, tape stuff, you know, boost, why you would boost certain frequencies at certain notes and things like that. If you don't know these kinds of things, go and figure those things out first, because this plugin is really for little touches when you know what to add on them. However, I can see somebody using this on every single track, you know, just using some sort of subtle thing where they just put it on and then they just use one parameter on one thing, where you just go, oh, you know, I really like how the Essentials plugin, for example, with the kick, boosts that top knock on a kick. So that might just be the plugin that you use for that technique all the time. But for $100, dunno. Anyway, that's my review. I'll leave a link down below for the splice stuff from where you can find it. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It supports me very much. Drop a comment. Let me know if you've used this, if you're keen to try it out, if you enjoyed my review. Otherwise, I'm going to see you very soon, because I've got a few track walkthroughs, a few tutorials, and a few more things just to show you, vlogs, these kinds of things. It's the time to get out the camera. It's a time to look after each other. It's a time for new things and focusing on what's important. There's a big change ahead. So See you guys very soon.
Bring in the bass, y'all, like back in the day.